All right, welcome back to My Mom's Basement, ladies and gentlemen. It is Robbie Fox, and I am here with Adam Lazzara from Taking Back Sunday. They just put
Hi
out
there.
152. It's the first album in 7 years. It's an awesome record. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for being here. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Man, it's like so crazy to hear like 7 years. Like just there's something about that number that like that doesn't feel real to me. So and like there's like it's like been uh between us like well whenever we say it or we're in a situation like this and someone says it, my first reaction is always like, nah. But yeah, it's been that long. There was a
Well, COVID
pandemic in there
years
though,
don't
so
count, right? Yeah. Like you kind
yeah.
of don't count those as full years.
True. True. There's man, like I just realized yesterday, like there's like so much that I feel like I'm still trying to shake off from that time, just as far as like social interactions and things like that. What a wild thing we went through.
Yeah, well, this album, like I said, it's really great. I feel like the songwriting on it is really great. And I know you were
Thank
working on
you.
it going back to 2019. Was there a conscious effort or decision when you start writing this that you want it to be a little bit different, that you want to have a different approach to this one, or no?
Well, like I think that comes naturally. It's not something we really ever talk about. Only because like in that uh, one of the things I'm really proud of with our band is that I feel like each record is a really great snapshot for who we were then, like in that moment in time. It's kind of like having like that's almost, and that's how I track years. If somebody's like, "Oh, what was going on during this time?" I'll have to think back and I'll be like, "Okay, it was this record. We were these kind of people. This is like that whole thing." So with that, and with all that said, with that just kind of comes this natural because from the time like you get done with a record to the time like you're starting to work on another one or anything like that, there's all these new things that you've been introduced to through the process. So you can't help but having a different perspective going into the next one. You know what I'm saying?
That makes sense.
but
Yeah.
but like with this one, there like was a definite turning point for us though, because normally like what happens is like we'll get into the studio, the four of us, and then we'll just see like who has what idea, whether it be a riff or like a full song or a part. And then normally the first couple of times we get together in the studio, we're just meandering. You're just kind of throwing everything out there, like, I don't know, man, here's this, I don't know, dance hall number I wrote, or here's this country sound. It's not, and then it kind of takes a while to find like or to find the direction. Anytime we've like in the past we have sat down like and said things like, we need something like it needs to be fast and aggressive and blah blah blah. And then like you get done with like the writing process and you look at everything, it's like, oh, these are all slow and mid tempo. That's not what we set out to do at all. So it's like putting that kind of thing on ourselves is something we try to avoid. That's through all that. That's what I was trying to say.
Did you feel like you had any new influences come through on this album, whether it's writing, recording, sonically?
Yeah, I think the influence of technology just was a huge thing. I kind of come from this, like when it comes to engineering or recording or anything like that, like I have the way that I was taught was very like you use the computer as minimally as possible. And so I feel like over the years, there's been like I've had a lot of personally, I've like had a lot of resistance to like, check out this plugin or man, have you tried this program or but like things like that. And it was kind of like through this process of making 152 was like that flipped my whole world on its head. Like there's things that like we really, oh shit, sorry, we really leaned into the tech and like not in a way of like, because we're still prudes. So we're still like, okay, we'll use that, but here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna run it through all these transforms, and all that. But so so I think that was kind of the biggest influence there because it was a huge help writing simple things. Like in the studio now, you could be working on something, right? And then normally for us, like we'll like work on things, and then once it gets to a certain point, I like to take a copy of it just wherever it is in that process, just once it starts to kind of feel like a song. and then I'll just pop it in headphones and just kind of walk around listening to it and getting my head around it and seeing like, okay, what's the mood of this? What's the, and then, and now, you can do things like, they can do like, you can have a session going, you can bounce it down and you can airdrop it to somebody's phone. And within like a minute, well, like 2 or 3 minutes, depending on the size of the file or the session, you could have what you're working on your phone immediately. And for years, I was like, that's bullshit. Doesn't sound good, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't matter that that shit doesn't sound good. And it still does sound good because the technology is great. But like, because you're just writing to it. Anyways, so that was a huge thing. And that really flipped a lot of the way that I view just kind of capturing sound, like it's because now, man, like anything goes. And think about it, like we're walking around with little fucking computers in our pockets. That's bonkers. And it has GarageBand on it. You can use Logic on your iPad now. It's insane. Anyway.
Do you think any part of you was resistant to use technology in that way because it feels like there's almost a stigma against it coming up from the scene in which you came up in? Like, feels like if anyone strays too far away from the pop punk or rock sound, there's more backlash than in other genres when artists will swap and try new things.
I like think there's a little bit of that in there. I was speaking more just like sonically, like if you have like a guitar, and you record the guitar direct and you're just using some plugins to shape the sound, you can get it there, but nothing beats, just a big ass speaker pushing all that air. And then just because there's literal power, that science part of it's fascinating. And so I was speaking more about that, but I do know what you're saying. There's like kind of like if you certain elements like I remember in the past when we were kind of still stuck in more of like a closed-minded thing. I realize now that it's just like an insecurity fueled rant, but there's like things like like certain synthesizers or certain drum machines or like things like that, like if you tried to like sneak them in, like then whoever else like in that scene or from that world, they go on the internet like, oh, they think they're fucking Bauhaus now or something. But like I think it like that stuff though, we try also not to listen to very much because we are what we say we are. We're the boss of us.
Hell yeah. Before we
Unless
get into
we're in
the
New
album,
Jersey, then it's Bruce Springsteen.
That's right. Yeah, I'm a Jersey guy myself, so respect.
Oh,
Yeah. Before we get into the album, I do want to touch on two moments that you guys had go viral recently. The first of which being the backyard show.
Yeah.
In a friend of the program's backyard, actually. We had Chris on earlier with King 9.
Oh, he's great, man.
And it was to shoot the video for Sold, right?
Mm-hmm. We so that idea came from our drummer Mark. And then like a lot of the or like for that video, and then like a lot of the artwork, and then like just kind of the spirit behind like the visual we were trying to place with everything was it came from Mark, because he wanted it to be, or like because the band's from Long Island, and his vision was kind of to really highlight that fact, because folks there, like anytime we play there or anything like that, like it like really feels like home, which is pretty cool for me to say. I'm from the South and I can like go up to the Northeast, which to me is like Mecca, and especially growing up, and then just to be greeted that warmly, is pretty incredible. So he was bringing that up, and that, like, I don't want to frame it as like, we got to get back to our roots, it's not that. It's just more of like just trying to like be very clear about like who we are and where we came from. That's why we named the record 152. And then so like all like the visuals and stuff, we wanted it to be very much focused around Long Island. We filmed a lot of stuff in well, the sold video in Lindenhurst, and then the like we filmed out in Montauk. We wrote the majority of the record in Port Jefferson, which is like I'd never been there. Look, I'd never been like past a certain point on Long Island, and and or like to go east. You know, I've been to Montauk once, and so I didn't know that Long Island looked like that out there. Like I was out there like, oh my God, guys, this is beautiful, you know. And even John was saying, he's like, I've lived on Long Island all my life. I had no idea this was out here. So they yeah, so we just wanted it to be very just to um just kind of, I guess, pay homage to the place that we're from, you know, because if it wasn't for just kind of like how the scene was then when we were coming up, and then just and all of that, you know, like we never, like I wouldn't, probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you over the internet. So um the so when that idea came up, we were trying to figure out the best way to do it. And um you know, there was like, we started with the idea of like, okay, we'll just find a place and we'll set it up so it looks like a show, you know, like it. But then that just like, you know, you can tell when something's real and when something's not. And so we got in touch with our buddy Mike Dubin. And Mike has been a great friend of ours. I've known him since I met him when I was like 15. And cause when he was coming down, like he came down with like Movie Life and Silent Majority for a tour or something. And so we called him, and we were, because for like a long time we would ask questions, you know, because he's kind of keyed in still to what's going on. And we would ask questions like, hey man, is there like a scene, like are there, like where are the shows, who's the cool, like who's the, what are the local bands doing, you know, things like that. And for a long time it didn't feel like there was much of that going on, but with Chris, you know, in his place, and like that group of guys, and like the Koyo, like that band, and then they like they've built this thing that is so incredibly similar. And it just feels like I was saying earlier, you know, it feels like home. So so yeah, so they set it up, and he let us use his backyard, great deck. And then yeah, we filmed the video there. It was like awesome too, because we didn't do like a huge open invite. Like it was just kind of people that are a active part of just what's happening on Long Island right now. And a lot of that music, a lot of those bands are so great. And so anyways, all that's how we ended up with that video. I don't even know, was that your original question? Oh my God, that was a
It
long
was.
walk, dude. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was
No,
such a
don't
long walk.
apologize. This is an interview. It's for you to talk. You're good.
I'll reel it in.
And then the second moment was crashing a fan's wedding, which was, I think, on
Hmm.
album release date. How did this come about and stay a secret? Because obviously the bride and groom were surprised. I've never seen two people more surprised than that video.
Dude, we were really nervous about the whole thing, because we're like, okay, like, look, we're gonna do this, but we are walking a real thin line, because like we're either gonna enhance their day or totally blow it for them. So like let's, and you know, you don't want to be responsible for ruining anybody's wedding. And so we with that, like there was the bride, Sammy. She reached out to us on Instagram, and it was just this beautiful message. She was, and like she wasn't asking for anything or like saying anything. She just um she wrote to us about how we were a big part of their relationship, and that she thought it was real amazing that the record was coming out the same day they were getting married. And then we were rehearsing probably about 2 hours away from where the wedding was, at this place in Pennsylvania called Lidditz. And it's this amazing, they built this incredible uh, facility out there just for like, it's like everything, production, touring, entertainment, like you can do it all there. Anyway, so we were there, and it's like 2 hours from the wedding. So is our manager Jillian had gotten in contact with the maid of honor. She did some internet sleuthing. She's real good at that. And then found the maid of honor, got in touch with her, and they all set it up and kept it completely secret from them, which is an amazing feat because like emotions and things are running high on days like that, a lot of stress, and because you want it to go just right. So to be able to like keep that a secret, it's pretty cool. And yeah, so like we drove there, we got there, maid of honor met us outside, and they kind of like brought us downstairs into this room, um, and just another part of the venue, and yeah, like I think it was like kind of like after, like right before the reception was starting, and then we just walked, or the maid of honor gave like a little speech and said that we were there, and then you could tell, like, because I watched the video afterwards too, you can tell they kind of look at each other like, oh yeah, right. And then here we come walking in, and the look on their faces, man, oh my God, it was just so great. And I hope they liked it. They seemed like they did. And they yeah, they were just real nice folks. And it was like Harry Potter themed, and that's my shit. I love Harry Potter. And
Oh, that's awesome.
so like she like reaches out and she has like a Deathly Hollows on her arm. I'm like, oh, I got a Harry Potter tattoo too. And that's what I'm showing her mine. And then it was just real nice day. And then afterwards we got to talking to we got to talking to her mom, I think it was. And if we didn't have to go, dude, John and I would have learned some shit from that lady. She was telling us all kinds of things, but we had to get going because we had to get back to rehearsal.
That's funny. All right,
Yeah.
I'd like to get into this album now. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, let's
love
do
the
it.
opening track, Amphetamine Smiles. It's like I
Thank
love
you.
a cinematic opening track for any album, and this is definitely one of those. It feels almost nostalgic.
It's interesting about that one because that one took a bunch of different, well, no, it took like two or three different shapes. And we were working with our producer, Tashar, and then just kind of he was like piddling with stuff, and then he just he took the drums out entirely, like the whole almost first half of the song. And then like right when he did that, we were all like immediately like, oh, I don't know. But then as we're listening to it back and we added these strings in, and it's like, oh my God, we've never had anything like this. But that's the kind of thing we would always like, a song like would be in that form up until like the last second, and then we'd be like, no, we can't do that. And so uh but kind of like when, yeah, like he took the drums out there. So then when they do come in, it just feels like everything bursts open, like someone fucking kicked in the door. And for us, like on most every record, maybe with the exception of the first, like we like try to start with, I mean, you want to come out of the gate swinging, like you come out with like a big riff or something mean. And so this one, it just starts with the little acoustics, bing, 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 bing. And then we were, I remember because John, from like early on, John's like, yeah, this one's gonna start the record. And I just remember being like, I don't know, man, like you're gonna start with like an acoustic number, like that's crazy. He's like, yeah, but then it burst open the whole thing I was just saying. And then when it came time to sequence the record, like anything else that I had put in that place just didn't work. It didn't feel as good. So yeah, so that's why we went with that one to open the record. And I like it too because it's there's like I feel like there's a way to use just kind of your standard elements, bass, drums, guitar, vocals, and but it just, I love it so much when everything is used to maximum efficiency, and I think that song does that, especially with how like the full band is introduced and everything.
There's a couple songs on this record that like burst open, and it has that huge sound, almost like an arena rock sound. I really like that.
It's Dang, I like that too. And that, like, a lot of that is Tushar, man, like working with him because he didn't know, like he had no, like he wasn't aware of our band. So like no preconceived notions or anything. And he also hadn't really worked with any bands. Like I think we were the first ones. He kind of worked more in like this pop kind of electronic world. And that was such a huge thing for us. Like I think even like personally, like between the four of us, and then just on our own, like just being able to work with someone that doesn't already have an idea of like who you are, or like what you sound like, you know, or like what you should sound like. And so that I think so, like with the combination of him and us, and then approaching, and like with the approach for the record, he was a huge help, like for things like that, because there were demos, dude. We would like bring them in, and you know, we just kind of threw everything at it. So it's like everything's turned to 11 the whole song, and he'd just be like, all right, and then just take stuff away. And then we just started to notice, like, yeah, yeah, it's much better without 14 things happening all the time. And like, so yeah, like I, much to his, he was just, I think, the best choice for us, and it shows in moments like with what you just said.
And then Sold comes out swinging. If you know,
Yeah, yeah.
the first one didn't, Sold definitely does. Kind of like a dancey rock song, I would call it.
There, man, like the thing with that one was we when that one started out, like it was like real like majory happy, like it almost sounded like uh something like a earlier Green Day or something. And and then again with to Shar, you know, like he opens it up and he starts taking stuff away. And then that sound, like that synth in the beginning, um which sounds very, I mean, uh I thought for the longest time it was a guitar, but it turns out it's not. But live we do it on guitar. Anyways, and but that sound, like right when we found that, I could listen to that on loop all day long. Like there's just something it does for me. And so like once that was there, the whole thing took on this entirely different light. You know what's real interesting about that too is that I tried to beat the vocals and I couldn't. So those vocals are the demo vocals.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah, they
So
sound great.
yeah, yeah, I was real surprised because like we probably recorded them at like 1:30 in the morning, like okay, let's just do this. We'll listen to it in the morning, you know, that kind of thing. And yeah, and that's what's on the record.
The one in terms of like
Hmm.
sounding huge might sound the biggest on the record to me. That chorus when it explodes is just awesome. And that's like the definition of that arena rock sound I was referring to that I really like.
Oh man, thank you for saying that. I really like this that song because it's like it's just like a straight up love song. I remember years ago, Mark's dad, our drummer Mark's dad, Frank, St. Francis. We he Mark was telling us about this conversation he was having with his dad, and his dad's like, how come you guys like don't ever write, like everything's so negative? Like, what's the deal? And like, and then for like I never really thought about it, but I always love the juxtaposition of something like it's really dangerous but also really cute, you know, or like just the polar opposites coming together. And then so I think that's why. But then I guess just as like a human, it's so much easier to just go straight to like, this makes me upset, or fuck you, man, like that kind of thing. But it's like a straight up love song, and like it's just not something we normally do. And then so like to have it be like this kind of like um just kind of, I mean, you know, like warm fuzzies, and then but also have it to like hit that, or that thing you were describing is like makes me really proud of us. I remember when we first recorded that chorus being like, well, it's like it's really simple. Like, should we add more? Like, should something else be going on? You know, like this whole thing, we went back and forth a lot, but every time we listen to it, it's like, no, this is we're on to something. So I'm really happy with that one too.
And
I'm
then
happy
keep
with all of them though. I'm going to say that about every song.
we should be. Keep going. The production on this one, I think, is really cool and really interesting. Out of the whole record, was there a song that was the hardest to get right the way that you guys wanted it?
Uh, you know, it was probably this one specifically. We went back and forth about this one so many times, and it was a big point of contention. Because originally I wasn't into it because I thought it was too much like, you know, like too much like just something we'd already done before. But then kind of like when I got a little bit of time away from it and then went back to listen to it, it like I like started to see what it had to offer for the record. That was the last one to come about too. Mark wrote that on his phone on GarageBand. And then so he because we needed something, like we wanted to have another something that was like upbeat, like real forward moving. And he's like, "Oh, well, I have this idea." And so then we bring it, open up the idea, and then start to replace elements with like real shit, and then mold it from there. And then I remember too, John had because Mark had sent it to John first. And then so John had written this thing for it. Or like he had like the verses. And they were like the whole thing he was trying to do, like he like sent it to me like a rough version of it. And he's like, my idea is I want to see like how much we can fit in there. And because my first reaction was like, John, this is like the wordiest. Like, what are you doing? It was great though. Like all like fantastic lyrically, but it was just so much. And then so for me, like I spent the next bit just like trying to take stuff away, like like to like to make it to where it wasn't just so wordy. And yeah, but I'm really happy with how that came out. There's this percussion thing that Tushar added that you can hear in the beginning and at the end of that song there's a victory lap. We call it the victory lap. It's like the song ends, but then it comes back in like, oh, we're not done. The joke we make is that this thing of like, man, it's just over and I still want to hear it. And we're like, well, let's just keep playing. And so anyways, yeah, there's like this percussive part, and then like how we got to that is just this incredible, or like just how his mind works with all that and like how to get to things like that. Because that sound started out as something completely different and like arpeggiated, and then he just shaped it and shaped it and shaped it until it came out. It almost sounds like wood blocks or something. You know. But anyways, yeah, so let's keep going.
So let's keep going. See the pun I
Ha!
did there?
Yeah,
I
so
am the
good.
only one who knows you. This is another one that
Mhm.
has a great build. Is this one where the drums were taken out in the first half of the song and you realized it was better?
This one had a whole different like the verse, like the main verse part was entirely different. It was more kind of like a palm muty thing, like jin 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 jin. And then we were sitting listening to it, and oh no, we didn't have a chorus, that like really worked lyrically. And so then when we stumbled across the I'm the only one who knows you part, that kind of gave the whole song like this different feel. So then like as we were listening back, we're like, man, now the verses don't really fit. And we're thinking like, do we change the chorus again? Or it was very strong. And then uh I thought of this that Christopher Cross song Sailing. Sailing takes me
Oh yeah.
away. Boom, 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 boom. So Mark also loves that song. And then we were like, yo, what if we came up with a part that was similar to that Sailing song that Christopher Cross had? The thing about that Christopher Cross song is like that's like the memory I have associated with it is like just very like a very, very powerful one for me, very strong. And then so it's like just been a real special song for me since I was a little kid. And and the same thing with Mark, just a different set of circumstances. And so then yeah, like so John found that on the guitar, and then it was just kind of like that's when the song like finally came together, we're like to where we were like, yes, we have a song now. But
And then
yeah, all inspired by Christopher Cross. Christopher Cross is a great example of Video Killed the Radio Star. Also, if you want to look into that, something to do
oh,
if you're bored.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Quit Trying. I'm a bass player, so I love a bass driven song
Mm,
like this. Very heavy bass, like real cool.
yeah, dude. Like mean. It just had to be mean.
Yeah.
There, so that one we wrote on a day off in Arizona. We had a day off from tour, and our buddies are in a band called the Main, and they're from Phoenix, and they have this house. Crazy story, and it's kind of like the Dream, it's like their headquarters, and yeah, they have a studio in there. So we went there on the day off, and it's the first song that so for years our buddy Nathan Kogan Post has been playing with us live, um and it was the first time that we went into the studio with him, because like so often during sound check he'll just be like piddling away, and then like one of us will be like, oh my god, can you play that thing you just played, and then somebody else will hop in, and then like these ideas start going. So we were like, well, we have this day off, like let's do that, what we do at sound check, just at the Main's house. And we did, and Quit Trying is what came out of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was another one too that we weren't sure about, that chorus, because I was like, man, there's just so much space in here, which felt so nice, because normally I'm like just because it's like all the things, and it, like, I love the space that's in the song. But then yeah, like when you mention the bass, like it, Sean Cooper, like there's so many parts on this record to where I would be like in the next room, and I would just hear what was happening, and like have to go run into the control room, like, holy shit, what is he playing right now? Like he really, like, I think if you listen to Tidal Wave and our last record, and you listen to 152, our new record, and if you just sit and are just listening to the bass, there's amazing things in both, but you could hear like this, like uh it's like Sean like coming alive, or like blossoming, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I just love his playing on this record. And yeah, but the thing with Quit Trying was that song is just like mood vibe, and so it had to be mean, big and fat, and that's what he did.
And then Lightbringer, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
you really shine on vocals here, and the background vocals go so well together. This one's like a very vocal showcase, I think.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I haven't thought about that one like that, but now that you say it, it does make sense, because it's like, because the instrumentation is very minimal
Yeah.
at like a certain point, because it wasn't until we were really rehearsing it to where I was like, oh man, there is not a whole lot going on. This is great.
Yeah.
Or there's, because I feel like as the years go on, like it's that space, it's kind of like the um or like with theater, or like something about that, or like comedy, or like there's all, like it's all in the timing and the space between, and that's something that we experimented with a lot more on this record, that I think, and I'm really happy with how it came out.
And then
But
on, oh no, go ahead.
oh no, well, it's like funny, because at like a certain point, the Lightbringer, like, was, we were just referring to it as the Henley, because it's like it has a lot of Don Henley in it. I have this older I have this Ford Bronco, because like, I, when I was a kid, it was like the car, and but it still has the cassette player in it, and I have like uh two Don Henley cassettes. I have Joe Cocker like greatest hits. I have like Tom Petty, like, so like these, like, and I was listening to a lot of that in the Bronco, and then that's one to where I can hear it and be like, okay, I know I was driving the Bronco a lot during that time, because it sounds a lot like Don Henley.
That's funny. How do the cassettes hold up? Do they still sound good?
Oh, well, I mean, as good as a cassette's gonna sound.
Yeah,
And
true.
there's, but great. There's something really nice about it. Like, I don't think it's too steeped in nostalgia for me, though there is like a big that plays a big role in it. But I think it's more with the cassettes in the car, is that you like fast forwarding to the next song is a big pain in the ass. So then you end up spending time with things, and then because there's songs normally, or like on my phone or like anything like that. It's just so easy, just bam, skip. And then, but with this, like there's things in all of these different records or cassettes that I'm noticing that I hadn't even really picked up on before. Like Full Moon Fever by Tom Petty. You know, that's one of my favorite records of all times, has been for years. And there's stuff on there that like I wasn't even um paying, like didn't even really notice. But from listening to it in the car like that, that it's like I'm picking up on a lot of this different stuff. So it's kind of like taking something that's been in the world for a while and um, making it new. You know, I like that.
And then New Music Friday, another huge sounding like rock song.
So that one was the first one, kind of like when that one came together. So like with working with Tashar, so we did a song with Steve Aoki, and that's how we met Tashar, because he was the engineer and producer that came to do um, or to work on that song. And then so we met him that day. And after working with him and just kind of seeing how the way that those guys work, because it's like maximum efficiency with those guys. And just because they're so busy, you know, they're doing so much. And so that like really just kind of rocked our world, you know. And so we were like, man, we should try to work with Tashar again. And New Music Friday, that's the first song that aside from the Steve Aoki song, that we like came in like, hey man, what do you hear on this? And then so kind of when that came together, it was like we knew it was gonna work, which was
Yeah.
nice.
Juice to Me. I
Mm-hmm.
love the music like mostly dropping out for the first run of the choruses in this one. Really cool
Yeah.
choice there. And then a cool
Yeah.
outro too, like a kind of experimental type sound on the outro.
Yeah. The outro, dude, the drumming on that outro, so sick.
Yeah.
Cause it's like Ringo, Ringo
I was
drumming,
gonna
like
say
big like
Beatlesy, I swear.
yeah, yeah, dude,
Yeah.
like real like wham bam kind of fills with space in them. See the space. And so yeah, that was um it was a lot of back and forth to not have that ending be like 15 minutes long. So like we had to like have like a come to Jesus moment, like, all right, guys, like for real, like all right,
No,
like
drop the 15-minute version. It'll be your version of All Too Well, right?
oh man, that would be sick. You know what? Live, I think we're just gonna start doing that because yeah, because we can do it. So the yeah, but that ending felt feels really great, and that thing in the beginning of the song too, that is this I have this pedal from Earthquaker Devices called the Arpanoid, and it's just an arpeggiator pedal. You know, like you can um plug into it and it'll arpeggiate whatever whatever you put into it, and it has a bunch of different patterns. So like I brought it into the studio when we were in on Long Island writing, and then so John was messing with it and then came up with that part, and then he took the part and then went into Pro Tools and he was messing with it there, and then so and then the end thing that he ended up coming up with, that's another thing to where we went through and tried to like recreate it, you know, and anything we tried, it just didn't have the same, like there's a certain feeling that comes along with that little piece right there. So we ended up just sampling the thing that John made, you know, and and having it run in the beginning, and then it like kind of comes in and out throughout the song. But I think that having that part there, that like weird arpeggiated thing, kind of helped to inform the ending, which is like the second victory lap on the record, I guess. And because just because there was something about like that, and just because it's coming out of left field for us, that I think once we knew we were keeping that and we were going to sample it, that was like all bets were off, you know. And that's how we came, I think, what made the ending okay originally with us, because you know, if you get us in a room and are just like, okay, just play, then we'll end up doing something like that ending for much longer than we should, and we'll be having the best time in the world. Um, so anyways, that's where that came from. That was another long answer. I apologize.
Don't apologize. You're fine. And then The Stranger, the final song in the album, one of my favorite songs
Hmm.
in the album, to be honest. The drums, the production, the like stomping chorus, it's awesome. And the
Dude,
Don't You
thank you
Treat
for
Me Like a
saying that.
Stranger, like that line delivered so well. Really good ending to the album.
Oh, damn. Thank you for saying that, man. Thank you. There's that one is or like when I'm going through all the songs on the record, like if someone's like, "Oh, what's your favorite one?" And like it always comes back to that one because there's some magic in there. You know what's crazy about that one too is same thing, demo vocals. Because it was like I couldn't top it. There was like a certain vibe that was in there uh that I just we couldn't recreate the whole thing. So we're like, well, we're just gonna keep this. It sounds good. And then with the exception of the stranger line that came later, when we were trying to redo the vocals. And then the only thing that came from however many hours we spent trying to redo the vocals was that dreaming like a stranger was that thing. Um, I really like that part too. And the like thing that I like about it is it like sounds like you should have a toothpick in your mouth, like just making a stinky face, you know?
Yeah.
And and I like anything that's gonna immediately like put me into like or just like anything that immediately like it feels like it's changing like my internal makeup, like the where that is it well, I think that's where the magic is, like, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that song has a lot of that, I think.
So there you have it. That's the whole album. I urge everyone to go check it out. And I have one more question for you. I ask this to every musician or artist that comes on the show. Noel Gallagher from Oasis once said that he summed up everything he ever wanted to say in his musical career and his life with three songs: Live Forever, Cigarettes and Alcohol, and Rock and Roll Star. Do you have three songs that you feel sum up everything you've ever wanted to say?
No, no, I don't.
You don't.
If I Well, if he already summed up everything you wanted to say, then what's he doing with those flying birds,
Well, yeah,
there
still got to make
there
his experimental stuff, you know?
yeah, true. there there's the thing I like about the Gallagher brothers is that like they they are not shy about saying exactly what they think at any given time, no matter what. And that is not something I'm ever really comfortable with. So I really like that they're into that and that they're able to do it. But no, with us, I don't think that I think that I could. Um there's ones that sum up kind of periods, chapters, if you would, of of um like different parts of my life, but not no, not like an overarching thing. Like there's that's one of the most frustrating things I think that I come across like in my day to day is that I'm trying to um figure out a way to get it out that feels um uh like in a way that I feel like other people could understand it, like just like
Yeah.
organizing and micromanaging words and things like that, which I love doing. But it's very hard sometimes to like be accurate, and to really like get to the heart of it. And I think that's just with every record or every song or anything, the notebook's in my pocket. Like it's like that's that's like one of the two main things I'm always chasing. So I think I would be really scared if I ever, hopefully, like when it's coming to like that final chapter in my life's coming to a close, then like by then I would have done it. I've been
Yeah.
trying because I've been trying for so long, but hopefully that won't be for a real long time because I there's nothing else I really want to do other than that. So I feel like if I got to a place to where I could sum up all the things, then it'd be time to like figure out something new to do with myself and how, and that would be, that seems like maybe it could be exciting, but also seems like a little sad to me because it's like there's still so much more to learn and explore with what we're doing now that that I wouldn't want that to, I hope there's not a finish line for that, I guess is what I'm saying.
I respect that. And thank you for the time to doing this interview
Yeah, man.
today. You've got
Yeah,
the
thank you.
ninth annual holiday spectacular next month. You're doing it at
Yeah,
Mulcahy's
dude.
and at Starland Ballroom, two of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite venues to go to growing up in this area.
Dude, it's crazy. Like Mulcahy's used to be like a much different place. And they've done such a wonderful job there, and they're just the nicest folks. Same with Starland. Like it's just like we've been so fortunate to where like there's places or these certain places, you know, that like there's um you know, you're always looking for your people, and I feel like we found it in those places, you know, like it's so we're really happy to be able to go back there. It'll be 2 days, yeah, 2 days on Long Island and then 2 days in Jersey.
Yeah, so check them out. Going to be awesome shows. Band we mentioned earlier, Koyo, they're on the shows. Awesome. Bill on
Mm-hmm.
on all the shows. So check them out. And again, thank you for doing the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, thank you for taking the time. I hope the rest of your day is wonderful.
You too.